What's up, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena with Mac and Griff. I'm Griffen, joined by my co-host, Mac Rommel, and today, it's just us. We don't have no guests today. It's just going to be us. We got a lot of hot topics on the table, and I think let's just jump right in, Mac. I mean, the NBA seeding games, one of the final days today, the competition for the play-in game in the Western Conference between the Suns, Blazers, and the Grizzlies. And Mac, I'm going to start with you. Who are you liking to make this play-in game? And from there, who do you think will win the play-in game?
I personally think the Blazers, just to start off, I think they're going to get that 8 seed. But to get into this play-in game, I believe it's going to be the Grizzlies over the Suns. They're playing the Bucks without Giannis for this one game. They're going to have a slight advantage. And although the Suns have been very hot in this in the bubble so far, undefeated. They're playing the Mavs. That's a good team with Luka Doncic. So it's going to be a hard game. I think the Grizzlies just have an advantage right now to get it in.
I think the Grizzlies do have that advantage to get into the play-in game right now. But the Bucks are still a good team without Giannis. They're obviously not as dominant. But the Grizzlies also don't have a guy like Jaren Jackson. So, I mean, that kind of offsets it a little bit. They do have a lot of talent, though, the Grizzlies. I mean, they've been playing good. They haven't been good in the bubble, though, which scares me. And I think the Bucks, a well-coached team, I think the Bucks are going to win this one, honestly. I agree with the Blazers. I think they'll take care of the Nets. And that's my team that I think will win the play-in game. I think, I'm not 100% sure if I think the Suns will get it done today. I think the Suns will get it done against the Mavs. They're hot. But I think the Blazers are going to be better than the Suns. I think they'll win a close game against them. I mean, they've got Damian Lillard, one of the clutchest shooters in the league. I mean, that is going to be a great game, and I got the Blazers coming out in the play-in. I'm going to flip this one back to you, Mac. For the NBA championship now, I mean, who are you liking? I know you've talked to me a little bit off air about the Clippers that you're liking. I mean, what are you thinking here?
So I'm going to start with the Eastern Conference. I think the Raptors could be over the Bucks. Everyone's liking the Bucks because, well, of course, to be honest, and they're just all-stars. Like, they're loaded, but I feel like those are the teams when they get over their heads sometimes thinking they have it all set up. I don't think they're going to make it. So I'm going to go with the Raptors in the Eastern Conference. And on the Western Conference, I'm not sure how LeBron will hold in the playoffs. He's getting older. I'm not sure if the Lakers team is.
You're not sure how LeBron's going to hold? He's like one of the greatest playoff players of all time.
Yeah, but now he's older. I don't know if he's.
But he's an MVP candidate this year. How is he not hold? Like,
I think he's gonna fall off.
He's rested, bro. They've been resting him in the games, and he had like 3-4 months. He's gonna be full force. LeBron's gonna be going off every night. That's a little bold there.
For some reason, I just fall off slightly in the playoffs this year. So that's why I think I'm gonna go with the Clippers this year. I think they're gonna be in the NBA Finals, and I think they even may win the NBA Finals. So yeah.
Clippers, it's a respectable pick, but I mean, your comment about LeBron not going like off. I mean, that's just like, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't care that he's 37. If he didn't play well in the regular season, you can make that argument. But he played amazing. He's had rest. I mean, he's had 3-4 months. The dude's going to be. It's like the start of the season. He's like fresh. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. And they also have Anthony Davis. I mean, you can't forget about him. He's top 5 player in the league right now. So even if LeBron, doesn't have his little A game, I think AD is going to pick up the slack if he had to, which I don't think he will. But I love the Lakers out of the West. Like I said, LeBron is going to go off, in my opinion. In the East, I do like your Raptors pick. I'll agree with you there. I think I don't know. I just have a feeling that team, it's well coached, good defense. I think the Raps will get it done. Another hot topic on the press: the college football season is in jeopardy for some, and it's already been canceled for some. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 have already canceled their fall season, hoping to potentially move it to the spring, which means that a guy like Justin Fields there might be a chance we don't even get to see Justin Fields again before he enters the draft. So Mac, I'm gonna give this one to you. I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you think is gonna happen with the other conferences in the Power Five, and how do you think this whole college football season will unfold?
I honestly think for the rest of the conferences in the Power Five, I think they're going to play this season, or at least give it a shot and see how things go. But for the Big Ten and Pac-12, that's kind of harsh on the players. We see the players, everything they're posting on Twitter, even some coaches, they want to play. They're not worried about COVID. Well, that's what it doesn't seem as. They want to be in this draft. They want to get their stock as high as possible for the draft. But since it's canceled, who knows if this could be possible? And possibly teams could move to the SEC. SEC has been willing to add teams to the conference for this year. But who knows what teams in the administration, what they'll think, and like the heads of these schools. So it's going to be crazy, and especially if they move it to the spring, what will that impact be on the draft?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. I just think the whole moving conferences thing is going to be like, I'm not 100% sure with that. And I think, I saw Joe Burrow brought up a great point the other day, and he said, if the last season didn't happen, I don't know what I would be doing right now. And that's a fantastic point. I mean, you look at where they were mocking Joe Burrow at the start of the year. He was like a 5th, 6th round pick, if that. I mean, if Joe Burrow didn't have last season, he wouldn't have been near a 1st round pick. So I think that's a great point. I mean, this is taking away guys' chances to potentially show themselves, show that they're NFL ready and get drafted. So that's huge. I mean, if some guys get screwed out of the opportunity of that and then they can't get on a team, I mean, that is terrible. And I think another point that Urban Meyer brought up, he was like, he said, you're not going to be able to play in the spring and then in the fall again, which is just true. So I think the Big Ten and Pac-12, I really don't know if they're going to be playing college football at all. And then another thing, how's the college football playoff going to work? How are bowl games going to work if 2 of the Power 5 conferences aren't playing? I mean, are those going to be played without them? That's just a little weird. I don't understand how that would work. So I don't know. College football, they're in a weird spot right now. And it should be interesting to see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, especially I feel if the Pac-12 and the Big Ten seasons are moved to the spring, and then teams like who make the playoffs and the bowl games from the fall season, they'll have to wait. Like, say they decide to wait all that time, see what they're doing with the Big Ten and Pac-12 before they play these games. Those teams are going to be on super long rest, and they may not even play up to that they were in the regular season. So it's just going to be a crazy season, especially with all the NFL prospects too.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't get to see Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence or guys like that again, I mean, the college football world's taking a big hit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, baseball has started back up, and it's been a wild start. I mean, a lot of commotion has already happened. We've seen the Astros already face retaliation from guys like Joe Kelly the other day. Ramon Laureano charged the dugout after being hit twice by a pitch. And we've seen guys like Charlie Blackmon almost hit 500 right now. And guys have gotten to slow starts, notably Gleyber Torres, Pete Alonso, Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger. These are guys that, were all-stars last year, top-tier players, getting off the slow starts. And I want to start with you, Mac. I mean, what has really impressed you right now? Is there a specific team, specific player that you have been really impressed by and surprised by?
Well, I mean, obviously the Dodgers and the Yankees are obviously like 2 favorites to be in the World Series this year. I think the Dodgers are the best team right now, and the Yankees, I'm not so sure of. They haven't been great in the past 9 games. I believe they're 4-5 after an 8-1 start. They haven't been playing the best with injuries and all sort of stuff like that. So if they could bounce back from these injuries and start playing like they were in the first 9 games, they could be a dangerous team again. But I think the Dodgers are my favorite team right now.
I think with the Yankees, the tough thing is they're dealing with some injuries. Giancarlo Stanton's gone down. He's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. Sorry. And with his injury history, I mean, it's really uncertain what he'll be able to do. Judge is, a little, as of today, he was out of the lineup yesterday with, I believe, some, lower body tightness. And I don't know. I've been really impressed with Colorado. They've been playing really well, led by Charlie Blackmon. Oakland has come out to a fast start, and Houston has really struggled. I would say I'm really disappointed in my Mets right now. I mean, they are, I'll go on a brief few second rant, but they're not playing good baseball. They're not hitting with runners in scoring position. They're getting on base, but they're not scoring people. The rotation has been a mess. The bullpen's looked fine. I mean, they've imploded at the few first games of the year. But this sorry, I am having some tough time breathing today. But they're getting killed. And I was praying for a guy like Stroman to come back, and then he opts out. Cespedes, the whole deal. I mean, it's just a Mets disaster in like a 18-game stretch. I mean, you've had a whole season of the Mets already. They've gotten blown out on national TV, heartbreaking losses. I mean, it just doesn't end with this team. And I'm just praying for Steve Cohen to own the team at this point. I mean, this season is honestly, like, it's just gotten to me where I'm like, it's a joke. I just don't care anymore. Like, just cancel it. Like, the Cardinals have played 5 games. I mean, it's just, I mean, what do you think about that? The Cardinals have played literally 5 games. They're going to have to play tons of doubleheaders. I mean, what's your thought on that? I mean, I think it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's going to wear out the players' stamina. If they're playing a bunch of doubleheaders trying to make up for all those losses of games, I don't think the team will be able to handle it. It's so much on their bodies, so much work that they have to go through, not just physically but mentally. So I'm not sure how they're going to be able to handle it with and they're going to have to play a lot too. It's not just like a few doubleheaders.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good amount. So their bodies are going to be worn out, and see some injuries come from that because their bodies are not going to be in best shape from playing so much.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you look at a team like the Marlins now just coming back, and they've got a bunch of half their roster almost of guys that weren't on the team to start the year. So it's kind of crazy. And I think there'd be like 2 teams like that, especially for the Cardinals, you know, a team that was in the playoffs last year. I think that it just takes away for some of the competitiveness, and it's going to be hard for them to make up all those games. I don't know if they can make up all those games. You know, the season, you know, today's the 13th of August. The season's going to end the end of September. I mean, is there enough time for them to play 55 baseball games in, you know, less than 50 days? I don't know. It's going to be a lot. They're going to get really worn down. I think they're, like you said, the injuries, I don't see how these players are not going to get injured. They're not going to be beat up. I mean, I think it takes away from the competitiveness, and, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But for now, you know, about a third of the baseball season done. So we'll see what comes from that. I don't know what else to say. Go Mets is all I got to say at that point.
Yeah, hopefully the Yankees, the injuries get better too, so they can make a run. Especially with how Aaron Judge was playing at the start of the season.
He's playing good. He is playing good. Well, some news from the guys behind you in your bedroom. I mean, your Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that's your forte. I'm more of a baseball guy, so I'll let you lead this one. Everson Griffen. That's all I'm going to say. What are your thoughts?
So yesterday, August 12th, Dallas Cowboys signed Everson Griffen to a 1-year, $6 million contract. This is a huge signing for the Cowboys, especially with their defensive line. There were a bunch of questions with edge rushers. Like, they had a few edge rushers, but none that really put them over the top besides DeMarcus Lawrence. They're all kind of pieces that you're hoping could reach their ceiling. Like, they got Dontari Poe, Gerald McCoy. But these are older players. They used to be elite, but who knows how they could play now. But Everson Griffen, he's old, but he's been playing at a consistent level throughout his 10-year career, making the Pro Bowl 4 times. And last year he had 8 sacks. So this is going to be a very, very dynamic duo between DeMarcus Lawrence and Everson Griffen.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing for the Cowboys. I think it's a needed one, too. You feel like there's a few pieces missing on that Cowboys defense. The offense looks great. But the defense, the secondary, I mean, that still scares me. They lose Byron Jones. They did have, you know, they brought some guys in the draft that they're hoping will patch it up. But they needed another guy that can get the job done. And I think Everson Griffen was that guy for this kind of price. And I think Jerry Jones, you know, he's just continuing to improve this team. And for me, this move, I already had the Cowboys above the Eagles, but this, to me, puts them a little bit over the edge for sure. I think they've taken that next step to be better than Philadelphia. I think their offense is going to fly. And I think this signing, their D-line, you know, they'll get good pressure on the quarterback. And I think maybe that will lead to some miscues from, you know, quarterbacks in their division, like Dwayne Haskins, Daniel Jones. I mean, you want pressure on those guys so they can make mistakes. So I think this is a fantastic signing by Dallas.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the depleted secondary. We're not sure. It's a very young secondary aside from HaHa Clinton-Dix as a safety. But the corners, they're all super young. So who knows? They have potential, but who's really sure? We have to see it in person first and see how training camp goes. But the Everson Griffen signing, they're trying to get pressure on the QB. And by getting pressure on the QB, that's going to help the secondary a lot. And there haven't been many great signings or great players available for this in the secondary in free agency. So I think getting another edge rusher and all these rushes they've gotten on the defensive line is going to help out the secondary. When they're getting a lot of pressure, the secondary is not going to have to worry as much.
I want to talk briefly about, you know, another guy who's out there right now, Jadeveon Clowney. You hear the Seahawks might have interest in him after Griffen signs with the Cowboys. And I want, where do you think where do you think Jadeveon Clowney is best fit right now? Where do you think he should sign? We've heard the Browns have been interested. The Jets, rumored, but the Jets denied having interest. Seattle obviously interested in bringing him back. Where do you want to see Jadeveon Clowney end up?
I think he would be best either back as a Seahawk or with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, I'm not sure how they're going to fill and pay him, especially with the cap drop potentially happening next year. I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to pay him that money, especially I think they're going to be in negative cap space already for next year. But I would like to see him in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. That's going to be a scary defensive front. They have Fletcher Cox, Brendan Graham. It's going to be scary if they do get him.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're saying that. I mean, as a Cowboys guy, I wouldn't think you would be hoping Clowney goes to the Eagles. That's a little shocking. I mean, I'm going to go here. I think he'd be a great fit for Seattle, and I think that would really staying in Seattle for him would really put them in a spot where they could, really have a good chance to go to the Super Bowl, especially with Jamal Adams coming in. But I'm going to go to my, Cleveland roots, my dad being from Ohio. I'm going to go with Jadeveon Clowney to the Cleveland Browns. I think that defense needs another veteran playmaker that's been there, that's had success, that's been a top tier. I mean, you've seen Myles Garrett. He's obviously dominant, and they just locked him up for a long time. Well, why not get a guy on the other side and Jadeveon Clowney locked up? I mean, they've had guys like Olivier Vernon come in. He didn't have a great year. Who knows what to expect? And I think Clowney's just that missing piece, and you'd have two of the best edge rushers in the league coming down. I mean, that would be a sight to watch. And with a weak linebacking core, in my opinion, I think the Browns could use Clowney to just patch up a few final defensive needs.
That would be a pretty scary defensive line, especially with a very young secondary. They got Denzel Ward, and they just drafted Grant Delpit. I think that could be a scary defense if they do get Jadeveon Clowney.
I think it'd be a great defense. It'll be interesting to see what the Browns can do in a tough division. Well, the last thing I really would love to talk about, fantasy football. I know my draft is in about 20 or so days. Assuming the season goes on, and I think it will start, I want to start with, do you have any guys that, you got some sleeper picks that, for all the fantasy goers out there that they should keep their eye on and they should make sure that at the right time, this is the guy to choose?
Well, this is the same guy I felt last year, Darren Waller, the tight end from Oakland. I think he's going to be even better after having a great year last year. They got Jason Witten, so he's going to learn a lot from Jason Witten. And I think he's going to be great. He was my sleeper last year. He was easily a top 5 fantasy tight end. He was great, and I have to stick with that pick this year. Although more people may know about him, he's still a sleeper compared to how I think he's going to produce this year.
That's really a fair pick. I mean, I'm going to go with, a Jet. I'm going to go with Le'Veon Bell. I think he is due for a huge year, and I'm super excited as a Jets fan to watch what he's going to do. I think with that boosted O-line, I mean, that O-line was atrocious last year. Now they've got, they drafted Mekhi Becton. They've got, guys like Connor McGovern, George Fant coming in. So I think the O-line's going to be a big upgrade. And I think, you heard Adam Gase the other day even say it. He misused Bell at the beginning of the year. He was a little unsure of how to do it. And I think they're going to work out the proper way to use him. And, Lev Bell said he's feeling great. And I truly believe that he's going to have a monster year. I think he's a first-round talent, in all honesty, that will probably end up in the 3rd or 4th round. So be sure to keep your eyes on Lev Bell.
I agree. If he could keep that patience like he had back with the Steelers and wait for the O-line to create holes, I think he's going to be great and get a lot of yards this year. He just has to keep staying patient and wait for the holes to open up.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now let's go to the other side of it. Some guys that, might be highly rated, viewed as a few in the 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round type pick. Do you have any of those guys being overrated, not going to have a good year, and you should stay away from them?
I think Alvin Kamara, it's kind of a pick, but I feel with the explosive pass offense they have, I'm not sure how Kamara is going to fit this year, how many touches he'll get, because I think they're going to want to use Michael Thomas a bit more than Alvin Kamara. So I think it's not based on talent. I think he's a really good player, but I think this year, I think they're going to want to focus on the pass game more. So if they could get him involved in the pass game, I think he'll be good, but I'm not too sure. I think they just want to stick with keeping things downfield with Michael Thomas and all things like that. So I think Alvin Kamara is going to be a little bit overrated this year.
I agree. I love that. I love that choice as an overrated guy. I think Kamara, he obviously was injured last year, but the Saints add Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas. They obviously still have. They run some weird stuff with Taysom Hill that I love, but I agree. I think Alvin Kamara is not a top 5 fantasy guy. I'd rather see a Dalvin Cook picked there, and honestly, I think probably end of the first round, beginning of the second is where I would take him. Another guy I'm not sold on per se. Weirdly, is Devontae Adams. I'm not 100% sure. I know Aaron Rodgers, that's like his only target, and Devontae was injured last year. But they worked out things with Aaron Jones. They kind of got it figured. And Devontae, Aaron Rodgers is good enough to get the ball to other guys. And as long as, he can get it to them, I think Devontae is going to be great. But I don't know. I just have this feeling after last year that I'm not sold on him as, some people have said he's the second best fantasy wide receiver. And that's, I guess, where I'm saying he's overrated. I don't think I would take Michael Thomas. I would take DeAndre Hopkins. I would take Julio Jones over him. So at best, he's 4 in my book. And I still think there's other guys I'd rather have there. So my advice then would just be, I would stay away from him if he is, if you're thinking of a wide receiver and you got all of them on the board or just one's gone, I'm not so sure Devontae Adams is the choice.
Yeah, normally he's actually like my favorite fantasy receiver, but this year I'm kind of taking a step back from him as well, not because of his talent, but I think the situation around him, especially after the Jordan Love pick. And I'm not a big believer in Aaron Rodgers anymore. I really do think he's an overrated player at this point in his career. But also with things going on with Jordan Love and how Aaron Rodgers feels, I'm not sure if that'll impact his play, but I think the situation in the locker room could be a bit off and may affect some things on the field. So that's the reason I would stay away from Devontae Adams this year.
One more guy I just want to throw out real briefly, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would stay away from him in the second round. I think he's going to be good. Their O-line's okay, but I just do not think in that offense that you are going to see a running back have crazy good numbers. Third round is the first place I'd touch him. You want, at that point, you'd rather see a guy like a Josh Jacobs, an Eckler, a Nick Chubb even over, Clyde Edwards. I just don't trust a rookie that high up in that kind of in a pass-heavy offense. I don't think, I'm not sold on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be a good player, but I don't think the scheme fits him. Like if we're talking about fantasy football, he's not going to get a lot of points. Who knows how many carries he gets unless they want to switch things up. Andy Reid in the offense, they want to run it more, but they're built on the pass. That's what led them to success these past few years. And I'm not sure, unless they get him involved in the pass game, I'm not sure how well he'll be running the ball. Even if he's good, he's not going to get a lot of carries this year, so he may not get the points people may be expecting him to get.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It should be interesting. I'm excited to see what comes out of the fantasy year. And, obviously, I think, maybe we might even have to get a little fantasy segment going. Maybe, if you guys want, leave in the comments and, maybe every week or so we'll do a little fantasy podcast where we talk, 15, 20 minutes fantasy. I mean, let us know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in, and we'd love to make that happen. I mean, I love talking fantasy stuff. Be great.
Me too. I mean, maybe we could even do like a live draft on here. Like if we do something with some of our friends, we could come on the podcast and do it live in front of everyone. That would be kind of cool, I think.
That'd be awesome. I mean, I think that could be a great idea. I know, with my school league already, we got the we're having a draft party, so maybe we'll get that on here. We'll see, but that's aside for a future week, and expect some guests back on the podcast in the next few weeks. But once the fantasy football season starts, be sure expect to see a lot of fantasy content coming your way.
Of course. And so with this, we're gonna end it here, I guess. So thank you everyone for watching today's episode of Outside the Arena with Mac and Griff. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at Outside the Arena Podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. And next week, we're going to be sure to drag someone outside the arena and be ready.